Good morning and welcome to this morning's reflection. Welcome to this Friday morning and the end of this week at looking at Peter getting out of the boat and what it means for us and how we respond to the invitation to get out of the boat. Yesterday we looked at why God instructs us so often to not be afraid, because fear is one of our greatest obstacles to obedience. We all experience fear. Fear is an internal warning that there is danger nearby, and it readies us and our bodies to respond to that fear. It readies us to behave in ways that will be protective. If we were only ever afraid in the presence of real danger, then fear would not be an issue. But really, most fear is unhelpful. And why is that? Well, it's unhelpful because it gets attached to things that are truly not a real threat to us. And it paralyzes us instead of motivating us. In the years when we used to sail, my husband had bought a sailing boat with a keel, and I knew in my head that it was impossible for a keeled boat to capsize. For the minute that the sails came out of the wind, the keel would right the boat. But as we sailed in the wind and the boat leant over in a very alarming way, I was terrified. And it was an unrealistic fear because I knew that the danger was not real. We could not capsize. And even if we did, I would just end up in the water. And I can swim. But nevertheless, I was terrified. And it stopped me, in this case, getting into the boat. And so our fears can become habitual. And when that happens, they become worry and anxiety. And they are no longer a response to an external threat, but rather to an internal condition. Our fear becomes a response to our thinking. Worry is fear that has unpacked its bags and signed a long-term lease. Worry has to be evicted because it will not go on its own. It will not leave on its own. We worry because we have very active imaginations. Very active imaginations. Of course, we also experience fear and anxiety due to a disruption in our brain chemistry. And if that is the case, then that must be treated. It must be treated by those who are trained to do so. And that sort of treatment has nothing to do with whether you have faith or not have faith. Fear often plays a destructive role in our lives. When we allow fear to have the final say on how we respond to life, how we respond to God, then fear kills our self-confidence and our self-esteem. And the more we give in to our fears, the more powerful they become. So try an experiment. Act in the direction of your fears. Meet them head on, trusting that Jesus goes with you and before you. So stand up to that bully. Wade into that task that you've been putting off for ages. express your real views to someone that you would normally placate. Acknowledge your sin. How about going to confession? Ask for help. Acting in the direction of your fear will make you feel stronger and far less of a victim. But if you allow fear to overwhelm you, you will begin to see yourself as a wimp, as a victim, as powerless. Fear also destroys our capacity to live joyfully. Because when we are fearful and worried and anxious, we spend our lives catastrophizing. We use our imaginations fueled by fear, and we imagine this awful future. We see only the negative. Yet 90% of those things that we worry about will probably never, ever, ever happen. When we do this, we give fear the power to rob us of our life lived in the present. Fear will often cause us to hide the person that we are created to be. We will hide behind agreeable words that we may not believe, and we do this because we are afraid of the opinions of others. Sometimes we hide for the sake of peace, but it is not peace. It is not a peace built on truth. It is not peace at all if it's merely the absence of conflict made possible by hiding. Fear undermines our trust in the one who calls us. Fear is not rooted in God. Fear does not come from God. It is not the voice of God. So let us acknowledge our fears and walk toward them as God invites us to step out of the boat and to encounter the storms along the way. Fear not. Amen.